Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. This is part 2 of week 1 of my Project Christmas Cheer for 2023. And I have been slowly working through the stack of cut, stack, flip. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. But cards that I started in the last video. And, oops, I knocked that off one of them. I didn't have it glued down. I just laid it where I wanted it. So today I'm going to finish. I've got a few left to do, and I'm just going to kind of show you what I've been doing. So we'll start with this first one here. And there's a couple ways I worked on this. Now, some of them I didn't ink, which you can see on this one. I did not ink around the edges. But I actually kind of like the ink better. So I'm going to finish inking these, and there's two ways you can do it. The first way I did it was I just took my cardstock and just kind of drug it along the edge. Now you get a crisper edge doing it this way, but by crisper I mean maybe a little bit darker. And it's pretty easy to do. So I'll do the first four this way, and then the second way I will show you the other way I did it, which blends a little bit better, but it's not quite as, doesn't give you quite the same contrast as this method does on the edges, just because the color's more intense this way. But you see I just kind of hold the card stiff and flick it across there a couple of times. Now these longer pieces, I kind of do that in two parts just because it's hard to keep the cardstock stiff enough to get a good inking on it. There we go. And depending on how moist your ink pad is, you may only need, not need to spend as much time, but if your ink pad's a little drier, it might take you a couple more swipes. And currently I am using Harmony by Spectrum Noir Quick Dry Dye inks, and this one is Midnight. Oh, just knocked my foils on the floor. All right, so we'll put this first one together, and then we'll do some others. So get out my glue here. So I did notice while I was mixing and matching all of my different pages or different cardstock prints that, which way does this go? It goes this way, I guess. That I actually had a lot more versatility than I thought, because, just because you cut them a certain way doesn't mean you have to leave them that way. You're free to switch these back and forth and these back and forth. So it does give you even more versatility than I had originally thought. Sorry, just closing my door in case my husband starts making noise. So I'm just gluing this down. Now you can use tape if you'd rather, but I'm making so many that I didn't want to spend all that time with tape. Glue was just quicker. I'm just using one of my blocks, which that moved. Straighten that out a little bit to hold those down in place while they dry. Now this Bearly Art glue does dry pretty quickly, but some of these have foil on them or another like glossy surface, and so that they do take a little bit longer. Now I chose not to mat these, but you certainly can if you want. I don't remember which one of those was up. Probably that one. Okay, so set that aside. Now there's a number of different ways I'm considering finishing these off, and one of the ways was I did go back through, and if you'll go back and watch the first video, you'll see that there was a page in there, a 12 by 12, that had all these tags on them. So I did go through and rip that page out and then cut them out. I trimmed the tags that had straight lines. I did not trim these tags because I'm not a very good fussy cutter. So I just rounded the edges off on them to make them look a little bit more finished. All right, so now we're going to go and do, I'm going to try this. I love this blue polka dot paper. So it's going to have to go that way. This way. And this way. All right, so before I do that, I want to ink these. And this was the other method that I used. Just using a blender pad. My blender, I don't know what you want to call those, ink pad, or oh, I'll think of it, but these are from scrapbook.com, but a lot of different people make them. You can get them at any craft store. So I'm just inking the edges, and I don't know if you can tell, but these are just a little bit softer looking, not such crisp lines as the first method. I'll show you. They're side by side. If you can see that, these are much crisper on this one with the stripes than it is on the ones with the trees. And it really just depends on what look you want. There is no right or wrong. And I'm even going to show you one more method here in just a minute when I get this one done. This method does take a little bit longer, so if you're doing a bunch of them, you might not want to ink 4 sides of 4 different pages per card, depending on how many cards you're making. But I like how, because I chose not to mat these, I like how it makes it stand out from the background a little bit better. And again, that's just personal preference. That's the great thing about any kind of art, is you get to create whatever makes you happy in whatever way that makes you happy. And if you don't like the result, try something different. Oops, I got a little carried away with that one. All right, so we'll glue this one down. So for some of these, I'll use these tags here. And then for others, I've got some other stamps that I'll stamp out sentiments, and some other backgrounds I'll use. I've also got some different decorative die cuts that I'll use, and I'll pull those out here in just a minute or two. It'll be longer than a minute. So I was using my Aleene's, I don't remember which version of Aleene's it was, but it was kind of, you could tell that the paper had been glued. I don't know how to describe that exactly, but it kind of bubbles up a little bit, I guess, where the glue is, and that's not something I particularly care for. So I switched to my Bearly Arts glue. It doesn't come out quite as fast because I've got the smaller nozzle on it, but it also doesn't create that warping, I guess is a good word. It doesn't create that warping. Now, let's see, let's go this way. And our last one for this card. And I just kind of try to line it up at the top and then line up this outside edge so that they kind of stay squared. All right, so there's that one. Now, I told you I have another method, and I'm trying to decide exactly how I want to do that. Let's see. This is with the crisper edges. Of course, it's one's on white and one's on blue, but I think you can see the difference. So it really just depends on the look that you want. So this other method, let's see if I can find my glue stick. Alright, so I save my foils, as most people who use foils do, because even with just pieces that have already been used, you can reuse them. And I'm going to go for, here's a nice little strip that wouldn't be good for much else, so I'll take that one to start. Try not to knock those over again. Okay, so I do want a piece of paper here, just so I don't get glue everywhere. And how did I have that? I think I had it like that. All right, so I basically just take and run some glue around the edges. You know, it doesn't have to be exact. You just want to get a little bit of tacky on there. And then you lay your foil on it. And I like to use my bone folder just to make sure I get a good adhesion. And I didn't do that one very well. I must not have got enough glue on there. So let's try this side. So, oops, stuck to me now. So I don't know if you can see how it has that little bit of foil around the edge. So I think what I might do first is I'm going to go back and ink this in some and just give it a couple layers. So we'll do a layer of ink and then a layer of foil. You need a little bit more ink. And you can go right over the foil. The ink will wipe off of that if you need it to. Alright, so let me try this with this side here. And I just kind of do a hit and miss. I'm not looking for an exact straight line or anything like that. Just kind of press it down with my fingers. And then I go back and add a little extra pressure with the bone folder. Oh, yeah, I've got a lot more glue on that one. So hopefully, by tilting it, you can see the sheen of the foil. So let's do this last side. And this is just a good way to use up your scrap foils. And this was a technique that I learned from watching Genevieve videos. She does a lot of paper crafting and junk journaling. And this was something I'd seen her do. And I absolutely fell in love with the technique. So I use this a lot. Put a little bit more on the bottom. It could use a little bit more. And it's just a glue stick. It's not anything special. There we go. So there's one. Let's see what card. I think with that darker blue, we'll put it on this lighter blue card. So there's one. Now I'm going to need another piece of foil because this one will go pretty quickly since it was so small. There we go. Yeah, I just realized I forgot to ink it first because I do like the combination of the foil over the ink. So before I forget to ink the other two, let me go ahead and do those real quick. Now, when I first started buying my inks, I've been crafting forever, but paper crafting, well, specifically card making, I've done paper crafts, but card making is probably my newest endeavor. And so I'm relatively new at it, only been doing it a couple of years, and that's been sporadically because we had a big move in the middle of my journey. For time's sake, I'm going to switch to this bigger piece and try to do this edge again. There we go. And let's do both of these sides. Again, it's just kind of a hit and miss. I'm not trying to coat the whole thing. Just trying to add some highlights. Where's my edge? There's my edge. That didn't do very much down there, did it? Try that again. Must not have gotten enough glue on there. There we go. Then I just, because I'm using glue and the glue I'm using kind of just runs over the edge. It's more solid than a liquid glue. I just kind of smooth out my edges. So there's one. Oh, that's actually two. We've already got one done. So let's try this one. There we go. glued 2 edges, but it really only worked on one, so. There we go. It's a little better. All right, do our bottom edge here. And one more. Get the right one though. Now sometimes, I'll see if you can see the glue, because of the way I'm scraping it, kind of comes around the edges. I just take and kind of scrape that back up. You can clean that off however you want, whatever you need to do. I actually like doing it better this way instead of on the reverse. And I'm just applying the pressure to get the foil to stick to the glue. Oh yeah, so you got a nice couple edges. And I'm just smoothing down that foil on the edge. And we'll do this one. All right, so those 4 are done. Get this out of the way. Pull this back in, and I think you can see how that just adds a little bit more extra attention or depth or layer, whatever word you want to use. All right, so now we'll glue these down. Make sure your card's going the way you want it to, because I have done that before, which I think probably is fairly common. If you get in a hurry, you just kind of put your card together upside down or backwards. I feel like that's exactly straight, but I think it's too late to, yeah, too late to shift it any. All right, so more glue. It's not going. And our last one, if I can hang on to it, seem to have the dropsies. Now I try to get around my edges really good because I don't like them peeling up. But I've noticed other crafters don't put as much attention on that, and maybe it's not really an issue. I don't know. It's just my own personal hang up, I guess. All right, so I'll just put my hand in my glue stick. So while that's drying, we'll finish this last one. And because I've got a darker cardstock, I'm going to see about not, no, I think I want it inked. Let's see here. Put my cat back on my glue stick. And we'll go back to this method. So in my last video, I talked about a little bit about why I want to make so many Christmas cards for the 2023 Christmas or holiday season. And it is because I donate or want to donate a lot of cards to a couple of different projects. One of them is the Angel Card Project, and they send out cards. I think they do it all year round, but they really have a big holiday push for people who are kind of alone and lonely, or just have had a really hard year and need a little bit extra, you know, well wishes, knowing that other people care about their journey and their struggles. And the other one is Cards for Soldiers. And so I want to be able to have enough for both projects. And my goal was to make one Christmas card a day. Now, in the past, I have sent, this past year, I only was able to get out 60 cards to the Angel Card Project. And so far, I have not sent any to the Cards for Soldiers project. But I've realized rather quickly, and I probably won't work on these every day, but my first batch in my first week, I'm going to have 24 cards. So I figure even if I can just get 7 cards a week, I should have enough to send to both parties. And if I can get more cards done, then that is even better, because I want to support our soldiers as well. Give a little weight to that one. Now, the thing about the Cards with Soldiers is you can't send anything with glitter, because the glitter can flake off and end up on their uniforms, and then apparently it can be dangerous because they can be seen when a flash of light hits it. So that's the only stipulation that I'm aware of for that project, and that is a hard one for me because I do like my glitter, but I also want these men and women to be able to come home to their families. So if I have to sacrifice my glitter, I will. But I don't know that foil is an issue, since it shouldn't technically come off of there. But I'll have to double check on that. There we go. Okay. So I started, let's see, I have some of these done that I've already kind of put together. Well, they're not done because I don't have the inside of them done. I need to put a message in there. But on the outside, I went ahead and took one of the tags and I made a little tassel and propped it up with some adhesive foam dots to give it a little depth. And this one I used another tag, and it just says Joy to the World, and I popped it up. Now the thing with making your cards too thick is that they might cost more to mail. Now if you're mailing a bunch of them to a nursing home, you've got 40 cards going in one place, you just put them in a bigger box anyway, and that will in the end save you postage. But just be aware that by adding extra dimension, it can delay the cards getting to where they want, depending on, you know, if they have trouble going through the machines at the post office, or if they're going to require more postage. But here's another one. I just used some ribbon and one of those tags. And then I've got lots of ribbons, so here's a different one with ribbon. And this one actually says Winter Wonderland down there. So I don't know what else I'll put on that, but I might put a little something else on that. And then we've got this one, it actually says Merry Christmas in there. Got a little snowflake tag with some ribbon. This one says Merry Christmas. We've got some more of that lighter ribbon. So those are the ones that I've actually, aside from the sentiment or greeting on the inside, those are the ones that I've actually finished. Now these are different ways I'm going to finish these. I've got some different threads. I've got some embroidery floss somewhere too that I might use, but different threads just to make some little kind of poles or flags or whatever. And this one, it actually looks green, but it's a variegated one, so it's got blues and greens and teals in it. So that's one of them. It's a thick nylon thread. I don't have the label, so I don't remember what kind it is, but I either got it at Joann's or Hobby Lobby. And then I've got, this is another variegated one. It's the first one I used, and it's just lighter shades of blue. But it's doesn't tie a tight knot because it's, at least not on paper, because it's really slick. And some of the other, let me get those. Some of the other things I'm going to use to finish these up are some bits and bobs that I have previously cut out. So I didn't get these all on my cards this year because I didn't get all my cards done, but here's some Christmas bells. I've got black ones and silver ones, and then I've got black and silver. So some of them are getting bells. Probably didn't need to take all of those out of there. And then I've got various ornaments. Now these were embossed and then cut out. And then these were just cut out with another die cut piece for the top. Let's see what else is in here. There's some green stripes. I'll just put them all out here. Now, I thought these would be pretty when I cut them out, and now I'm not as convinced. So I don't know if I'll use those. The little one I like a little bit better. I actually do decorate my trees. I have one tree that I dedicate to kind of coppery browns and rose golds and stuff, and so I thought those would look better than they did. This was just some paper I was trying out. It's lace. I don't love them, but I don't like them a lot. And then this was just more cardstock. It was double-sided. I picked the side I liked the best and cut out some ornaments. Those were all die cuts, but if you have a Cricut, you can cut them out on there. I've done that. I may even have some of those left to show you. I'm not sure. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, this is just more of the same, except these are the red ones. So I had some leftover paper, red glitter cardstock, and I thought that looked nice on the ornaments. And then I had just this Damascus kind of background, which I thought was pretty. And then, of course, just the plain red. So some of them will be getting some of these, maybe. Depends on the colors. Obviously, I won't probably put red on any of the cards I just did, but other cards that are coming up. Let's see here. Somewhere. Oh, I definitely will probably add some of these. And these are, again, a die cut. Most of these are. And this is just Santa and his reindeer. And I could see where, let's see if I've got a side, well, this one doesn't go sideways, but let's just pretend that the trees aren't sideways. And that'll just fit across there nicely. And then I can still put a some kind of Merry Christmas sentiment there. So, and I've got lots of those. I spent a good couple of hours just cutting stuff out one day. Now, I tried cutting stuff like this out with the Cricut, and I even tried vinyl, and it didn't cut real well. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it was because I was using an older mat and it wasn't, my material wasn't adhering well enough, which caused it not to cut very well. We will see. I will try that again and I will get back to you on that one. So then I've got some sentiments that I've already cut out, and then just some beautiful backgrounds that I could put a sentiment on or stamp a sentiment into. And maybe not so much on that one, but it'll just depend because it's white. I might recut some more out in a darker blue to help match, you know, to coordinate with this blue foil. Those are all white. And then I've got these sentiments. I'll try and do it this way. There we go. I actually have some pearl paper, and I printed these, cut them, and I could, because I laser printed them, I could run them through my Mink machine and foil, toner foil all of these, which was the foil I was using before. I don't know that I will, but I could if I chose to. So just different fonts. I love fonts, and so different ones. I'll just pick all these up and put them back. And then I've got just different greeneries to put behind if I put a big enough tag or something on there. Let's see, let's go like this, and I'll just grab a couple here. They don't necessarily match because I just use my scraps. And there you go. Just adds a little bit of extra depth. So something like that. There are all kinds of options, and I have different cuts of the pine boughs or boughs or limbs, whatever you want to call it. Now, one thing I know I'm going to use a lot of is these snowflakes. So I've used most of what I had, so I will need to cut out more. But I've got a variety of snowflake dies, and so I will be cutting out more snowflakes to put on these. And then maybe add the Christmas sentiment on top of that or something like that, you know. Just play with it, have fun with it. Let's see, I'll put these all back. The other, oh, and I've got different sizes too. That one was kind of big, but I do have a smaller, that's a very pale blue, which wouldn't even hardly show up on those, but there's some pine cones that would look nice with the pine branches, or evergreen branches, maybe that's a better word. I bought these vellum envelopes by mistake, and so I have decided to just use them to store some of my ephemera, but that's all for another story. So that's more greenery. And this is trees, I believe. So again, it's just all, well, it's mostly die cuts. There are a few in here from my Cricut. Like, that's a die cut, but this was, I believe, from my Cricut. I could be wrong. That's a die cut. This is one that's really delicate and pretty, but it's also going to be a little more work to glue down because it's so fine in places. So just different sizes of trees, and I don't know that I'll use trees on these necessarily, but I could. Let me see if let's find one in here. I want a dark one, darker. Maybe, well, let's try that one. So there's that. And then, you know, maybe Santa running off the edge of the card or something. It's hard telling. I will play with those more in the next couple of days, and then I will come back and show you what I've done. I also need to make January birthday cards. I'm not sure what today is. I think it's the 5th. I could be wrong. I haven't made any January birthday cards yet. Shame on me, because my birthday's in January. Not that I'm making myself a card, but, you know. And then I have these Christmas globes that I could use, and then put an actual picture behind it. So I could cut out something else from a DSP, make my own DSP, or, you know, take an old Christmas card and cut an image out that'll fit in there and make it look like a snow globe. So I do kind of like that idea. This one's one I used a scrap of embossed metallic or foil paper. I like the way it looks. It makes the bottom look a little bit fancier. This one was just a gray paper, and then I colored it in from the outsides to make it look like the light was hitting it just right. So you see, you have options, lots and lots of options. The other thing I will add, and I need to cut these out because I've run out, is some of them I will add little cardinals to. I have a die cut. It's not really a cardinal, but they're small enough I don't think anybody would notice the difference. So there'll be little red birds. And then I have an SVG that I created that has a bunch of cardinal shapes in it, and I'll cut those out of vinyl, red vinyl, and some of them will get those, just, you know, for people who lost a loved one this year. I understand the cardinals is a sign that a lot of past loved ones visiting you or something like that. I apologize, I botch everything, but you know, just to help people know that others are thinking of them. So anyway, you probably shouldn't let your glue set open as long as I did. See if I can get the pen in. Yeah. All right. So anyway, that's what I'm working with, and I'll spend the next few days finishing these up, and then I'll come back to you and show you what I've done, and then we'll move on to week 2. Now, I have not yet selected a design template for week 2. So if there's something in particular you want to see, let me know. I'm trying to keep the simplest cards at the beginning of the year, and then I'll work up to more difficult cards. At least that's my goal. But I'm open to hearing what you think and what your suggestions are. So please let me know. And, you know, if you get a chance to subscribe to my Facebook group or my Facebook page, I have one of each for Expressions Craft Studio. And then maybe like and subscribe. I apologize if I ramble too much. I know I do that. I'm trying to work on that, so bear with me. And hopefully we will come across a lot of different techniques this year. I want to try a lot of different things. There's a lot of cards I've penned that I want to go back and try because I think they're beautiful, and, you know, kind of come up and put my own spin on them. So hopefully you'll follow me on this journey. I will link below, I forgot to do that in the first video, the Facebook pages for Cards for Soldiers and the Angel Card Project, in case you're interested in donating cards to either of those projects. They're very worthwhile, and I know that the people who receive the cards really appreciate them. So until next time, until week 2, I don't think I'll be back with this project again this week, but starting Monday, we'll start on week 2. And like I said, if you have a particular type of card you want to see, let me know. If not, I will kind of just play with what I've got and figure out where we're going to go from there. We may do another technique like this with a different paper and a different design as far as the layout goes, because I do have some dies that I can use for that, so that might be kind of fun. But again, until then, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I know time is valuable, and I'll stop rambling now so you can go on to something else. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.